बंद कर दिया, ये कर दिया सेटा सेटा एडे Good afternoon, welcome to Vanik-Ias. We will discuss current affairs of 31st March, and first topic is India UAE. First topic is India UAE Comprehensive Economic Partnership Agreement, that is SEPA, between India and the United Arab Emirates UAE. Right? Comprehensive Economic Partnership Agreement between India and UAE. India has comprehensive economic partnership with South Korea, with Japan, and what is this SEPA, especially such type of trade agreements? They reduce the trade barriers. There are various trade barriers. So, that suppose for example, customs rules, bureaucratic red tapeism, high taxation, all these things, they are trade barriers, or strictly quality checking, disqualifying on the basis of various reasons. To remove all these trade barriers, there is comprehensive economic strategic partnership, right? Comprehensive economic partnership agreement. That is will be signed between India and the UAE, and the negotiations are going on. Union Minister of Commerce and Industry announced the unveiling of comprehensive economic partnership agreement SEPA between India and UAE at a press conference during his visit to UAE, right? So, he has, Union Minister of Commerce and Industry announced the unveiling of this agreement, right? That is comprehensive economic partnership agreement. He has announced. Okay, what is this SEPA? It is a kind of free trade pact that covers negotiations on trade and services, trade in services and investment in other areas of economic partnership. See, trade in services is very important. Why trade in services is very important as compared to the goods? So far as goods is concerned, there are various trade pacts where you can and there is goods are liberalized, but trades for example in WTO also there is continuous demand to liberalize the trade to services. There is difference between goods and services, because those countries like China, right, they are especially your manufacturing hub. They produce huge number of goods. Powerful countries, their manufacturing sector is strong. That's why they produce huge number of goods. And by their lobby, there is liberalization so far as goods is concerned. But so far as service is concerned, it is not liberalized, because India has advantages over services. We have a strong service sector, right? So whenever there is such type of agreement, that is trade agreement, partnership, India and other countries, India always advocate for the liberalization of services, right? But the other countries, they force on liberalization of goods. That's the conflict. Similarly, we came out of RCEP, right? We came out of RCEP. Why? That is because that India will suffer a huge trade deficit, because China is a service, China is a manufacturing hub. It will and they have not sufficiently liberalized their service sector in RCEP. That's why the concerns of India are not taken. That's why India came out of RCEP. Okay, India has signed SEPA with South Korea and Japan. We have already signed comprehensive economic partnership agreement with Japan and South Korea. This comprehensive economic partnership agreement will increase the trade between the both country UAE and India. That will increase the trade between India and UAE significantly. That's why it is getting signed. Okay. So how it will increase? The new strategic economic agreement will increase the bilateral in goods and 100 billion in next 5 years of the signed agreement, and increase trade in services to $15 billion. 100 billion. We have 100 billion trade with only United Nations and China. We do not have 100 billion trade with any other country. So if 100 billion trade with UAE happens, it means it's a big achievement, right? It's a very good achievement. It's an extraordinary achievement if we sign the SEPA deal, that is with UAE. The agreement is a comprehensive agreement which will cover trade in goods, rules of origin, trade in services, technical barriers of trade, for example, quality issues, technical barriers of trade. Forcefully, if you are I mean, which product is good or not, what is the quality of the product, that will be decided by the people, by the market. But by legislative intentionally, many countries they ban such many goods on the basis of quality or technology or based on the industry where it is originated, all these things. Sanitary and phytosanitary pressures, dispute settlement, movement of natural persons, telecom sectors, custom procedures, pharmaceutical products, government procurement, IPR and investment. IPR is intellectual property right. IPR, intellectual property right. What is IPR? Property right. What is IPR? It is the product of one's a particular person's intellect or knowledge, right? For example, intellectual property right means that is the creation of your mind, giving your right over the creation of your mind. Suppose a particular movie director, he has produced a particular movie, no any other person can broadcast that movie. That only movie is to, if you are broadcasting the same movie in your channel, for example in your YouTube channels, then that will violate the copyright. That will be called as copyright infringement. That is violation of intellectual property regime, IPR norms. Similarly, so whatever you are created, only you have the authority over the creation. If a third party is going to use it, then they have to take your permission. If a third party is going to release your song, suppose if you have a company, you are a part of social media, you want to release a particular song of a person, then you have to take the permission from that music company to broadcast the news or to broadcast the music, right? So India UAE SEPA deal that will increase. It will increase. It will take steps around 2027. The trade will be $100 billion, right? And in various areas, the SEPA will be signed. That is digital trade, cooperation in areas, government procurement, and intellectual property regimes, investment. So in over all of our areas of service and trade, the comprehensive economic partnership agreement will be signed between India and the UAE. Remember, we have SEPA agreement with Syria and Japan. Next, India will include a digital trade element, which is the first of its kind for both countries. Digital trade element. The UAE is India's third largest trading partner and second largest export destination. Third largest trading partner and second largest export destination, UAE. Third largest trading partner and second largest export destination. The UAE is also 8th largest investor in India with an estimated investment of $18 billion. Bilateral trade between the India and UAE stood at 43 billion in 2021, which is very high, almost third, right? I have said that UAE, we have very good trade. So far as trade relationship is concerned, our priorities are United States, China, and then UAE. The bilateral trade between next, the exports were $16 billion, $16.7 billion, and imports driven by oil pushed the balance in favor of the UAE at $26 billion in 2021, right? Just because you are purchasing oil from UAE, that's why there is a trade deficit of around, that is $8 billion in 2020-21. But UAE is its third largest trading partner and second largest export destination, and it has invested around $18 billion in India. And so the economic importance of UAE as a country is huge. Then what are the issues regarding this SEPA? What are the challenges? One is lack of negotiations. A free trade agreement with GCC comprising Saudi Arabia, Kuwait, UAE, Oman, Qatar, Bahrain as its member was first envisaged in 2007, but got stuck after a couple of rounds of negotiations. So trade agreements with GCC it is stopped, right? It got stopped since 2007. So lack of negotiation, it has not developed in the Middle East. Then lacking global giant experience. Lacking global giant experience means Indian businesses are small in size. Although they are big, but that not big like the big companies of world, right? Indian businesses can't come to close of big global conglomerates that have the capacity, infrastructure and experience to handle huge investments. So that is also we need big capitalists. Then procedural issues including lack of planning Procedural issues, lack of planning, lack of complete information, bureaucratic bottlenecks. Remember, bureaucratic bottlenecks, it's always there, right? That is regarding clearances, or there are various unnecessary rules, that is also called as bureaucratic red tapeism. Remain a challenge for foreign investments despite significant efforts by the government in the direction to make investments easy and convenient. So the big problem is that negotiations are not sufficient. That's why we are not able to sign trade agreement with GCC, right? Since 2017, or around 13 to 14 years has already passed, but the negotiations could not be completed. It is stopped, and there is lack of there is procedural issues because of bureaucratic red tapeism and other factors. Then what are the legal issues with respect to it? Legal problems have the past dampened the foreign investment from coming to India. Legal problems, right? Suppose a particular country is facing legal issues regarding dispute redressal for long years, that create a bad impact on by the investor, and because of that legal problems in the past, because of legal problem, delay in judiciary to settle the disputes, dampened foreign investments from coming to India. It has reduced the foreign investment. Then, for example, investment from UAE, Etisalat and Etihad has got stuck in legal problems, thus dampening the investor enthusiasm. While checks and regulations are needed, better streaming of the procedures and processes help avoiding such type of problems. So far as legal issues concerned, how you must ensure speedy dispersal of disputes. If any disputes arise, it is the responsibility of the government, it is the responsibility of the state to remove those type of, to address those issues or challenges immediately, because if a particular company undergoes a long legal issues, like long time of legal issues, then what will happen? Long time of legal issues if a particular country undergoes, then they will not be interested in investing in India. That is the problem. Now world has become unified, it has globalization, there is already globalization. So so far as China is concerned, even if, for example, Japan is one type of enemy of China, because China is getting huge mess in your South China Sea, still Chinese investment to Japan, so Japanese investment to China is almost more than almost 10 times than Japanese investment to India. Why? Because they have made such type of, they have taken such type of steps that address the legal hurdles by establishing, suppose the e-courts, that is for dispute redressal of business courts, right? Such type of disputes to be addressed only for businessmen or investments, that is not established. Another thing is that such type of legal issues, the investors should not be put into various legal issues. Then political will, there is a challenge pertaining to political diversions, especially when an election year is appearing. India has a tendency to become focused inward, in the process ignore foreign policy, right? Whenever there is election, then we are ignoring foreign policy. The UAE, with an appetite for large scale investment, needs to be continuously engaged, right? We need to engage with UAE for continuous investment, because it is a rich country, its per capita is almost highest in the world. So India must reach UAE again and again, and we should continue our negotiations so that UAE will invest a huge amount of money or bring huge investments to Indian market. That's why we are signing the trade agreement with UAE. Then significance of the deal. What is the significance of the deal? That is comprehensive economic partnership agreement with India and UAE. Enhanced market access. Most important part is enhanced market access. The agreement will provide significant benefits to Indian and UAE in businesses, right? Both will mutual advantage, because the products in which Indian have advantages, India will sell there. The products in which UAE have advantages, they will sell here. So the customers of both the countries will get the good quality of products at less price, right? So including enhanced market access and reduced tariffs. Unnecessary tariffs will be reduced, so that the people will also get various goods at low price. Then SEPA will boost bilateral trade from current 60 billion to 100 billion in next 5 years. So it will increase from 60 billion to 100 billion. That will be done by the comprehensive economic partnership agreement. So that this achievement is very significant so far as India's trade is concerned. India welcome investment from Gulf country, welcome investment from Gulf country into Jammu and Kashmir. That would open new routes for regional trade and connectivity, and enhance the collective interest of India, Israel and UAE and the United States, right. So, India welcomes the investment from UAE in the Gulf countries in investing in the Kashmir. The deepening of the relationship with the UAE, that would also help Indian exporters to gain access to other West Asian countries, Africa and some parts of the Europe. Would also help Indian exporters to access other West Asian countries, Africa and some parts of the Europe. So, if we are activating our business establishments are getting activated in the Middle Eastern area, that will have spillover effects of not only to UAE but also other countries of the region, that is Saudi Arabia and other countries of the Middle East countries. The digital trade early harvest agreement would likely include a chapter on digital trade, which would aim at enhancing cooperation between the two countries on digital trade in future, right. So, both countries is going to for early harvest agreement. What do you mean by early harvest agreement? Early harvest agreement means rather than finalizing the before finalizing the deal, right, you will make a small deal on some particular subjects. For example, digital trade, let's liberalize digital trade between both countries. This is early harvest agreement, that is agreements on small parts of the total trade, that is early harvest agreement, and India would like to conclude a chapter in digital trade in early harvest agreement, right. So, making, especially this means making the deal part by part. If there are various parts, various sectors in a particular trade agreement, there are issues related to it. For example, we have issues regarding liberalizing our dairy sector, because that will hamper huge lakhs of rural women, rural people, their livelihood. But we do not have the issues so far as liberalizing the pharmaceutical company. So, in those sectors where there is no issues, let's make agreement and start trading so that both will benefit. In those sectors where are issues, let's solve one by one. So, first, that is early harvest agreement, that will lead to making the total deal part, and those where there is no issues, those they must be signed and implemented. And significance of the deal, okay, it enhances market access and digital trade, we have already discussed the both part. Next, we will see digital trade is like to include frameworks and paperless trading, digital payments, online consumer protection, because privacy is very most important thing, as well as address issues such as intellectual property rights and rights in digital trade and challenges to small and medium enterprises. Small and medium enterprises, the ministry, that is MSME, and your intellectual property right, IPR and consumer protection, all these things will be come under digital trade, that both the countries are going to sign. The UAE hopes to get enhanced market access in India for its petrochemicals, metals and dates, right. Dates, we all eat dates, that is of brown colors, small brown color. UAE hopes to enhance market access, right. It needs enhanced market access in India for its petrochemicals, metals and dates. India goods will flow to other GCC countries as UAE has no custom barriers. It has no customs barriers, so India's good will also flow to other the Gulf region, the other countries in the Gulf region. Energy ties, UAE India's third largest supplier of crude oil and second largest supplier of LPG and LNG. India's third largest supplier of crude oil and second largest supplier of LPG and LNG. Renewable energy is the next stop of bilateral trade ties. Renewable energy is the next stop for the bilateral energy ties. Why? Because we have to meet the targets of Glasgow summit. We have to go for green energy because we are facing the various challenges because of the climate change and global warming. That's why we must go for green energy, and India has a good target of around to making it carbon neutral in 2070. We have promised it, and accordingly we have to increase our green energy. For that we have to become self-dependent. That's why India is also going to develop the trade with green energy with UAE. It is expected to create new jobs, raising living standards and provide wider social economic opportunities for both the nations. Create new jobs, raise living standards. So, if SEPA is implemented, various people will get the trade will be boosted. We have said that around from 40 billion to around 100 billion, so almost trade will be doubled. So many people will get benefit, many people will get employment. So overall economic growth will happen by comprehensive economic trade agreement. Then what need to be done? The India UAE SEPA will further cement the already deep close strategic relationship between both the countries. It will cement the deep close strategic relationship between both the countries. Both the countries are partners so far as trade and culture is concerned. Will create how it is linked in culture. We have a significant of Muslim population. We have the largest, even second largest country with highest with more Muslim population, and UAE is a Muslim country. So there is cultural ties, right? Exchange of ideas and exchange of people. Cultural ties is also there. So far as UAE is concerned, it's a historical friend, and both countries must take the advantage of the areas of convergence where both countries are getting mutual benefit. Both countries should leverage those benefits by signing the comprehensive economic partnership agreement. So both countries, that will lead to raise of living standard of both the countries and improve the general welfare of the people of both the countries, because both people of both countries will get goods, those goods with less price. Further, both countries need to identify clear areas of focus and establish working together to resolve trade remedy cases. If there is any disputes arising because of trade, that need to be addressed, right, by commercial courts, or we can impose commercial court to reduce the delay in the dispute settlement. That need to be prioritized. Next topic, NSAIDS threat to vulture population. Vulture population. Recently, Bombay Natural History Society (BNNH), it is Bombay Natural History Society, is very important. It's a body that has again and again it has asked by various competitive exams, that is BNHS. Please go through it in detail, at least 3 and 5 points. This is wrote a letter to urging Union Ministry of Environment and Forest to ban the use of 3 veterinary drugs that are known to kill the vultures of the country. 3 veterinary drugs. Who was written? National History of Society, Bombay National History Society, BNHS, Bombay National History Society. Major issues are highlighted. What are the major issues? The letter warns the rampant use of the 3 non-steroidal anti-inflammatory drugs. Non-steroidal anti-inflammatory drugs, that is NSAIDS, threatens to undo center's 2 decades of work arrest of dwindling vulture population. So vulture population is significantly got reduced in last decade, right? During our childhood, we have seen so many vultures. Today, we are not able to see at least 1 vulture. So the vulture population is significantly dying. Why they are dying? Because of various chemicals used by human beings, various anthropogenic activities that creates a threat to the vultures, right? Surprising the 3 drugs, that is aceclofenac. Aceclofenac, it converts into your diclofenac, or ketoprofen and nimsulide, right? Aceclofenac, ketoprofen and nimsulide. This introduced the alternatives to diclofenac, right? Earlier diclofenac was killing the vultures, that's why it was banned, but these are introduced as alternative to diclofenac, but they have the same effect on the vulture population, or they are killing the vulture population. Especially they are used for cattle, for some cattle diseases. If cattle consume them, right, that toxicity remains within them. But when the cattle dies and they are thrown out, another time when vulture eats the dead cows, then what happens? They die because of the component, that is diclofenac. But these are also which are used instead of diclofenac, they have also the same effect. India banned it in 2006 for animal use because it caused widespread vulture death. Diclofenac was banned in 2006 because it caused widespread vulture death, right? Then India has slowed down vulture mortality rate, but not stabilized the population, right? We have reduced by various steps, we have reduced the decline rate, but it has not stabilized. It is still declining. Vultures are quite common in 1980s. Currently, 8 species in the country face extinction. Extinction means it is almost going to be abolished, almost going to be eradicated from the continent. That is extinction. The country's vulture population crashed from over 40,000 in 2003 to 18,000 in 2015. 18,000 in 2015, significantly reduced. Last vulture census conducted by intergovernmental body, that is Wildlife International, it has seen that almost 60% of the 60% of the population has reduced. They are killed because of diclofenac and various chemicals that are used by because of various anthropogenic activities. Next, what are about vultures? Vultures are one of the 22 species of large carrion eating birds. Carrion eating birds that live predominantly in the tropics and subtropics. Their area of living is tropics and subtropics. India is home to 9 species of vultures. There are 20 in total. There are 22 species, and India is home to 9 species of vultures. And vulture population in India, the decline in vulture population came to limelight in mid 1990s. India hosts 99% of population of the 3 species. 99% of population of the 3 species of vultures, that is oriental white-backed vulture, long-billed vulture and slender-billed vulture. These, remember these 3 names, they are very important so far as prelim is concerned. Oriental white-backed vulture, oriental white-backed vulture, long-billed vulture, slender-billed vulture. These are the 3 types of population that in India, and India has around India has lost 99% of vulture population of these 3 species. That is the problem. The red-headed and the Egyptian vulture population have also crashed by 91% and 80% respectively. 91% of vultures are killed, almost dead, and are already dead. 80% of these Egyptian vultures almost dead in India. So this is the problem about vultures. Right, now we will see. So see the graphs, right? The drop in India's vulture population. In 2003 it was 40,000, 2007 it became 32, 2011 it became 34, again it is increased here, but in 2015 it is again 18,645, it has reduced. And what are the four elements that kills the vultures? One is diclofenac. It is banned in 2006 to arrest this because it severely killed the vultures. Then aceclofenac, they get converted into diclofenac within hours of administration. It converted into diclofenac. This aceclofenac that has used alternative to diclofenac, that converted into diclofenac within hours of administration to cattle. After some time it converts into diclofenac. Then nimesulide causes visceral gout and renal failure of vultures within 30 hours of ingestion, right? So whenever it eats, it dies after 30 hours, that lead to renal failure. Then causes death of vultures within 48 hours of ingestions due to heightened toxicity levels, right? Ketoprofen that kills within 48 hours. So these 4 types of this also need to be banned. In Bikaner, major habitation loss in some regions, Bikaner, Jaisalmer, Raigad, Kamrup, right? Huge number of vultures suddenly died because of some chemicals. So vultures are vanishing. Why they are important? We will study why these vultures are important. Okay. What are the importance of vultures? They act as important functions in nature's garbage collectors. They are called as nature's garbage collectors because they eat the dead bodies. They are garbage collectors and help to keep the environment clean of waste. If a particular animal is dying, then vultures eat them, right? So that remains clean, that do not decompose and create the environmental pollution, or that do not create the bacteria generation, or that's why they are nature's garbage collectors. Vultures are carcass feeders and play significant role in natural mechanism of infection control. So when they eat the dead animals, infection do not become infection controlled and it do not spread over various regions or various into the communities. So they are infection controller. Despite feeding on the infected carcasses, vultures do not get infected. They have the ability, even if they eat the infected carcasses, the dead bodies who are infected because of various diseases, till they do not get infected. So that's why the acids in their stomach are potent to enough kill the pathogen. So the acids in their stomach are potent enough to kill the pathogen. They do not, they do not feel the crisis they do not feel any such type of infections. They can eat infectious bodies, but they have the resistance power. They remove bacteria and other poisons in the environment quickly by consuming the carcasses, right? As they consume the dead bodies immediately, they remove the bacteria infections. Now, birds are also prevent contamination of water sources, especially in the wild. Birds are also prevent contamination of water sources, especially in the wild. Also prevent the contamination of water sources. Why? Because especially in the wild, because they also eat the even dead bodies in case in the water bodies. So they also clean the water marine, that is the water pools in the wild, in the jungle. When animals die near the watering holes, there is an immediate danger of contamination, resulting a quick spread to the infection and the mass death near watery holes. So when animals die near watery holes, there is chances of contamination of the whole water. But what happens? Vultures eat them. Vultures are critically important to the Parsi community. They are important to the Parsi community. What is the importance? The community leaves the dead atop the tower of silence to be consumed by the vultures. The community leaves its dead atop the towers of silence to be consumed by the vultures. So they feed the vultures. So they are important for Parsi community for their religious practices. The Parsis may have turned to other methods, including solar oscillator or hasten decomposition of the dead, but none has proved to be efficient and hygienic as vultures. So for feeding the vultures is the best way for that is hygienic for the environment, because they eat it completely. When you burn, suppose you are burning a dead body, then there is also carbon emission. If you are, if you are applying any other method, then that is not as good as if that is eaten by the vulture, right? So it is the best efficient method according to the Parsis. Okay, but now they have situation because of modernization, they have applied various other methods to, to kill the how to make the last rites of the dead people. Then what are the conservation efforts? The center in 2020 launched Vulture Action Plan. Vulture Action Plan launched in 2020. 25 for the conservation of vultures in the country. Drugs Controller General of India, DCGI has banned veterinary use of diclofenac. In 2006 it was banned. Then Central Zoo Authority, CJ, Bombay Natural History Society, BNHS also established vulture conservation and breeding program. That's why where they are conserving the from vultures, providing feeding, right? MOEFCC released the action plan for vulture conservation 2006 with the Drugs Controller General of India banning the veterinary use of diclofenac same year, right? In 2006 it was banned. The country is also accredited to the Convention on Migratory Species, CMS, right? Multi-species action to plant conserve African Eurasian vultures, which are recognized NSAIDS as major threat. So these three types of chemicals which I have discussed, that are NSAIDS, they need to be banned. So little seems to have moved from the ground. In 2015, Tamil Nadu became the first state to ban veterinary use of ketoprofen in Nilgiri, erode and combated district. So Tamil Nadu district in a particular state has taken the steps, and they have banned the ketoprofen, that kills the vulture after 48 hours of eating. When the vulture eats the carcass, within 48 hours that becomes dead because of ketoprofen that was banned by Tamil Nadu government. So these are the steps that are already taken by the government of India, but they need to be implemented properly. Collaboration of all the international bodies, local communities and everybody, and we should stay away from these four types of chemicals that is especially killing the vultures. We must see if there is any other options available for treatment of the cattle. Okay. Then what need to be done? Cow sheds should maintain medical records and note down the time of death of their animals. The treatment should decide whether the body is to be cremated or sent to the dumping ground. Right? Sent to the dumping ground. Right? If that means here another is, it is one more solution. That means if a particular cattle is treated by diclofenac, then do not send to the dumping ground where it will be eaten by the vultures. Rather than send to the cremation. If anybody cattle is not treated with diclofenac, then you can send it to the dumping ground so that vultures will eat. Creating awareness among cattle owners is the only way to prevent deliberate poisoning aimed towards eliminating the problematic large carnivores. Creating awareness among the cattle owners, those who have cows, if they are using diclofenac, then they should not leave their dead body in open, they should burn it, right. There is a need for the strict implementation of the Insecticide Act 1968 to regulate the use of pesticides. Insecticide Act of 1968 to regulate the use of pesticides. So, this is all about the vulture conservation. We must strict implementation of the Insecticide Act 1968 to regulate the use of pesticides, and that should not be used overuse, because that is indirectly affecting various animals. Next topic is medium range surface to air missile, MRSAM. Medium range surface to air missile. What is this medium range surface to air missile? If an surface to air means if an enemy missile is coming to India, how to intercept? Intercept means going nearer to the missile and getting blasted. So both the missile will blast. So that will not hamper us. That is surface to air missile. The DRDO is developing, Defense Research and Development Organization. Defense Research and Development Organization, DRDO, is developing MRSAM, right. Conducted 2 successful flight tests of Indian Army version of medium range surface to air missile. Medium range surface to air missile, MRSAM, in an integrated test range, Chandipur coast of Odisha. In Chandipur it was tested. What is the flight tests were carried out as a part of live firing trials against high speed aerial targets. High speed aerial targets, that means they will send a high speed aerial target and they will again send here the surface to air missile that will go near it and that will blast. The missiles intercepted in the aerial targets destroyed there completely. The first launch was intercept a medium altitude long range target, and second launch was providing the capability of low altitude short range target. First launch was intercept a medium altitude long range target, and second launch was providing the capability for low altitude short range target. So both type of missiles, if they are coming, how to intercept them, that is the objective of MRSAM, and both are the tested, right. Intercepting, if enemy, suppose Pakistan is sending a satellite, then how to intercept it? We have to break it, otherwise if it will fall, then it will devastate our particular region. That's why we need such type of surface to air missile system for interception. Okay, what is MRSAM? It is the version of surface to air missile developed jointly by DRDO and Israel Aerospace Industries. Remember who is developing, that is very important. So far they can ask in film. Surface to air missile is developed by jointly by DRDO and Israel Aerospace Industries. You know that Israel is very strong. This aerospace industry, IAI, it is very strong so far as defense technology is concerned, and we have defense cooperation with Israel. That's why both countries are cooperating with each other to establishment or for testing of such type of surface to air missiles or development or the various equipments of DRDO. Israel for the use by the Indian Army, right. The MRSAM Army weapon system comprises of multifunction radar, mobile launcher system and other vehicles. What do you mean multifunction radar? Multifunction radar means it will detect, right, where is the enemy missile. If it will find that, okay, by radar it will detect that is an enemy missile. Then our MSRM, this medium range surface to air missile, that will go near the missile and it will blast. So that both will blast in sky. And another thing is that mobile launcher. Mobile launcher means it can be launched from anywhere, right. It can be launched from a truck, it can be launched from a ship, it can launch from from anywhere. Mobile launcher, any moving launcher also it can be launched, right. The flight tests were carried out with the weapon system in deliverable configuration. The performance of the weapon system was validated through the flight data, captured range of instruments like radars, electro-optical tracking systems and telemetry deployed by ITR Chandipur. Electro-optical tracking systems, why radars, why electro-optical tracking systems are used after radars? Telemetry deployment by ITR Chandipur, why it is so much technology as used? Because if you have only radar, Then also they have a stealth technology. STALTH, stealth technology. By stealth, what is the stealth technology? That radar cannot detect stealth technology. So if you are making a missile made out of stealth technology, then radar only cannot detect. That's why we have electro-optical tracking systems that will detect and that will fire. Okay, next. Next topic is prelims fact is World Earth Hour. What is this World Earth Hour? It is celebrated in March 6. This year it is celebrated in March 26. This year, right? It variable. We will see. Observe as a World Earth Hour. The topic of World Earth Hour is Shape Our Future. The theme is Shape Our Future. It is very important for this year, March 26 and Shape Our Future. This is World Earth Hour slogans. What is it? Is global grassroots movement. Grassroots movement. That means it will be celebrated by the citizens, right? Global citizens. All of us will say unite. They will celebrate this global Earth Hour. People to take action on environmental issues and protect the planet. This is a creation of one type of creating mass awareness to address the environmental issue, right? Mass awareness for addressing environmental issues and protect the planet. It is organized by Worldwide Fund. Worldwide Fund, WWF, remember, Worldwide Fund is organizing. This is very important. Many times they may ask in the prelims, World Earth Hour, this year was the Shape Our Future, and it is organized by World Wildlife Fund, and it is there to create awareness among the people whole worldwide regarding environmental causes. The whole world is suffering from climate change. All of us need to protect our energy. We save our energy. We should not consume so much fuel and other energies, so that greenhouse emissions will reduce and we can address or mitigate the issue of climate change. It has started the Lights Out event in Sydney and Australia in 2017. It has started in Sydney and Lights Out event. Sydney and Australia 2007. What happened in Australia 2007 in Sydney? They make all the lights, public lights off for 1 hour. That is, for 1 hour all the lights were off. That is started in Australia for creation of the awareness. The annual Earth Hour Lights Out event. Lights out means there is no light in public. Is held worldwide toward the end of March to encourage individuals, households, communities, business to turn off their non-essential lights for 1 hour. Non-essential lights to be made off at least for 1 hour. That is to celebrate the Earth Hour, right? That is creating awareness so far as ecological environment is concerned. What is the objective? Objective is to create awareness and spark global conversation. Spark global conversation to protecting the nature, not only to combat climate crisis, but also ensure human health, happiness, prosperity, and even survival. Because all our happiness, human health, all this depends on our environment. Because whatever the water we use, whatever the air we use regularly per day, that determines our health, and that is directly related to environment, right? That's why this will create awareness and spark global conversations. What will happen by global conversation? If everybody will talk about environment, what will happen? That will create a pressure on the government, right? Pressure on every government, because government always want to do those things which people will happy. They have to make people happy to get votes, right? That's why that if the discussions becomes open, if everybody discuss a particular topic, government becomes serious about it and they will take steps for the environment. The Earth Hour stands as a climate change initiative where people reduce their electricity uses. Earth Day, April 22 celebrates our National Environmental Day. April 22 are celebrating National Environment Day by inspiring people to plant trees, recycle regularly, keep the planet ready, right? We are also celebrating April 2 was Natural Environment Day, and we also celebrate Earth Hour to create awareness among the masses, to create pressure the government to take steps for environmental conservation. So let's discuss a main question. A permanent and sustainable solution which is mutually acceptable, both sides need to needed to resolve the decades of long fishing issue between India and Sri Lanka. Long fishing issue, we have an issue of fishing between India and Sri Lanka. We have various issues, for example, Tamilian issues, trade issues, various issues are there, but the major one of the major issues is that is the fisherman issue. What happens actually? It is very difficult for the fishermen to detect up to which area. For example, it is India and Sri Lanka are very connected, right? India and Sri Lanka are very connected. The gap is very low. So these fishermen of Tamil Nadu, they go for fishing, but there is no boundary. There is no visible boundary of water. Sometimes they enter into the territorial water of the Sri Lankan water. That's why when Sri Lanka arrest them. Why they arrest them? Because Sri Lankan forces fear that they may be some terrorists. Why? Because Sri Lanka has gone for a 2 decades long of civil war. Then there is Tamilian connections, right? In the Jaffna province of Sri Lanka, there are Tamil majority province, and there is historical linkage between Indian Tamil Nadu and our Tamil Nadu and the Jaffna province of Sri Lanka. That's why, so they are from the Tamilians, there are various terrorist organizations like LTT and other terrorist organizations. That's why they fear if there is infiltration from the Tamils to Sri Lanka. So, and how to detect them, and that is why many times they arrest them, sometimes they execute them, they take action for executing. For example, in 2014 also they are declared execution of some fishermen, but at the request of the newly elected Narendra Modi government, the Mahinda Rajapaksa, the then president of the Sri Lanka, they released them without any such punishment. So it has been a long issue between India and Sri Lanka. Both fishermen's interactions with overtakes the boundary, and it is also issue between India and Pakistan as well in the Sar Creek region, right? So far as fishermen is concerned, they pass the territorial water. Sometimes they overcome and go to the Sri Lankan water for fishing. Earlier, what was happening? There is a Kachatibu island between the two. Kachatibu island, it was a traditional fishing rights of the fishermen. Earlier, they were going to Kachatibu island. But now, what happened? Because of Chinese pressure, Sri Lanka is not recognized the rights of Indian fishermen over Kachatibu island, right? So there are various issues. Another thing is that what are the steps that we have developing an IRNSS, Indian Regional Navigation Satellite. After the development of IRNSS, we can link our boats, our trawlers to the around 1500 such boats. Around 1500 boats will be linked to, and that will provide direct navigation to the boats, so that the problem of fishermen can be addressed by IRNSS. And it is always humanitarian issue. India is already saying many times that it's a humanitarian issue. So both the countries resolve with mutual dialogue and with cooperation. So we'll see the issues what is written here. In line with the neighborhood fast approach, we have a neighborhood fast approach. So that means it is the current government has a policy that is neighborhood fast. That means among all the partners of among all the international states, various states are there. For example, your neighborhoods are fast. Why your neighborhood is fast? Because for security and trade, right? There is a potential of trade. There is no barrier of distance. For example, if you want to sell something in Russia, then there is a barrier of distance. How you will take your goods to Russia? There is a transport cost, all these things. But so far as your Nepal is concerned, it is nearer to you. There is no issues regarding trade. So our so far as security and trade is concerned, both for economic and strategic purposes, our neighborhood is always important. Also, Sagar Doctrine, Delhi attaches a special priority to its relations with Colombo. However, fishermen issues are persisting since long time. Pak Bay, near narrow steep water separating the state of Tamil Nadu and the northern province of Sri Lanka, is a rich fishing ground. It's a rich fishing ground for both the countries and continues to be disputed space. The major issue, ongoing disagreement over the territorial rights and the island of Kachatibu, right? So in Pak Bay and Kachatibu island, there is a disputed territory where there is a huge fishing ground, huge amount of fishes are produced there. Then fishermen issues major concerns. Sri Lanka has accused Indian fishermen of frequent poaching and the island nations waters and damaging the marine environment through frequent trawling. We have bottom trawling. Right? What happens? These trawlers, they are nets that grows, that robs in the ground and take all the pieces. That happens. So what happens? The marine biodiversity, they get killed automatically because of bottom trawling. So Sri Lanka is accusing that it is destructing the marine biodiversity of the Sri Lankan water. As in the past, fishermen from the Rameswaram in the nearby coast continue to sail towards the Talaimanar and Kachatibu coasts, a region famous for rich maritime resources in Sri Lanka. So Rameswaram coast continue to sail towards the Kachatibu coast, that is and Talaimanar coast. But plenty of catch in this oceanic region has triggered proliferation of fishing trawlers in Tamil Nadu. Right? As there is huge amount of fishes are available, so this river trawling and fishing has increased. That becomes unsustainable fishing because of economic interest. There are many favorable reasons for Indian fishermen as their access to Sri Lankan waters was easier at the time of Sri Lankan civil war. Favorable reasons to also. Indian fishermen has access to Sri Lankan waters was easier during the time of Sri Lankan civil wars. So that has become a practice and they were fishing in that region, right? But now the problem has arisen. Bottom trawling, this is the biggest problem. In 2017, Sri Lanka became the first ASEAN countries to ban the aggressive method of fishing and declare an offence by unanimously passing an amendment to the Fishery and Aquatic Resources Act by attracting a fine of LKR 50,000 with 2 years of imprisonment. Since then, many Indians were jailed. That means if you are using bottom trawling in Sri Lankan water, then you will be jailed for 2 years. Political issues. While the conflict is multi-layered, its political dimension has tended to overshadow the important factors. Right? What are the political dimensions? See, Sri Lanka is a country where majority is Sinhalese and minority is the Tamils, and majorly where fishermen are Tamils. So when there is majority of Sinhalese, so any action against the Tamils that pleases the Sinhalese. So because of political reasons, it is also taking strong actions against the bottom trawling and punishing the Tamilians, Indian Tamilians. Then Indians jailed. In particular, Indian analysis says that trauma faced by the families of fishermen detained in a foreign jails has not received much attention. It is pertinent that in most cases the arrested fisherfolk have been sole earners of their families. That creates a problem on the humanitarian grounds, because they made a mistake, they should not be punished so much. Their incarceration in Sri Lankan jails has inflicted trauma and suffering for their families. Sometimes they die, and that becomes a big problem. Among the many fishermen, some are the only breadwinners. So far as humanitarian is concerned, this is very severe. Kachatibu issues. While the unpopular truth in the entire conflict is accusations about Tamil fishermen entering Sri Lanka waters, ownership of Kachatibu Island, where Tamil fishermen has traditional fishing rights for centuries, also remains unsolved issue. So far as Kachatibu Island is concerned, the traditional fishing rights of Tamil fishermen in Kachatibu Island. So as the issue is unsolved, Sri Lankan Navy should not arrest Indian fishermen because that is a disputed territory. Indian fishermen has fishing rights since centuries, right? This is the issue between both the countries. Then how to solve it? Resolution of fishermen issue. The Department of Ocean has Development, Ministry of Agriculture have, and to ensure assistance to the states so that fishermen are able to find alternative livelihood in the fishing park bay. So Indian government Department of Ocean Development and Ministry has given various alternative livelihood, right? They are promoting alternative livelihood and fishing, because of fishing they may end up in the jail of Sri Lanka. The Sri Lankan Fisheries and Aquatic Resources Minister appointed 3-member committee to find a lasting solution to the issue. According to the minister, India has accepted the draft solution submitted by Sri Lanka in last year, but further progress was halted due to COVID-19 pandemic. Sri Lanka has suggested that joint patrols and operations between the two countries to guarantee effective results on illegal fishing and trespassing. There is an immediate need to sign protocol on joint patrolling. So joint patrolling to be ensured, so that if there is anybody crossing the territory, they must be prevented. If both countries are unable to settle the dispute, then they could seek assistance from the international maritime experts, right? If they fail to bring a, bring convergence, then both countries can seek international interference. So this is all. Then we will discuss the objective questions. Objective questions. First question is, with reference to T cells, consider the following statements. They are diverse and important groups of lymphocytes. Yes, T cells, lymphocytes, diverse group of important is so far as lymphocytes. They play vital role in components active immunity. T cells are related to active immunity. They cannot recognize solution free antigens. 3 options are correct. All the 3 options are correct here. Next question. With reference to space economy, the estimated size of India's space economy as percentage of GDP has shown growth in 2020-21. No, it has reduced. It has slightly reduced. Although overall, so far as see percentage of GDP, in terms of percentage of GDP, it has reduced. But in terms of overall numbers, it has increased. It has reduced. So this option is wrong. In relation to GDP, India is spending more than that of China, Germany, Italy. Yes, Japan, it is spending more than them. It is about less than Russia and US. So second option, second it is right. So only 2 option is right. India is spending more, so far as GDP percentage is concerned, India is spending more than China, Germany, Italy and Japan, but less than US and Russia. And then which of the following organization released the export preparedness index in 2021? Export preparedness index, that means comparing the various states, especially that is Niti Aayog. This such type of index are created by Niti Aayog to induce cooperative and competitive federalism between various states of India. Next. With reference to VRR, variable refresh rate, VRR variable refresh rate, that means within 1 second how a particular site, how many time it can be refreshed, that is variable refresh rate. Refresh rate is the number of times a display can capable of refreshing in a minute. No, not in a minute, it is in a second. So first option is wrong. Not in a minute, it is in second. Lower the refresh rate, the better quality of the viewing experience. No, if you can refresh a particular page again and again, again and again, so viewing experience will be better. So it's not lower, it need to be higher. So neither one nor 2 options are right. Right? A internet page, how it can be refreshed in a particular second, that is VRR or variable refresh rate. With reference to MRSAM, that is medium range surface to air missile. In the use, consider the following statements. It is a surface to air missile. Yes, surface to, it can be launched from mobile launcher, from anywhere it can be launched to intercept any foreign missile. It is developed jointly by DRDO. Yes, it is jointly by DRDO and Dassault. No, it is not by Dassault. It is with Israel companies, with Israel Defense Firm, with Israel Defense Authority, not with France. So second option is wrong. If second option is wrong, then 2 is wrong, then this is wrong, this is, then it comprises of multifunction radar and mobile launcher system. This is right. So 1 and 3 options will be right. So here the lectures end. Like this video, share this video and don't forget your duties to subscribe Vanik-Ias IAS. Thank you.